I'm Antonia Blythe, Senior Awards Editor at Deadline. I hope you all enjoyed the film. How many of you was it your first time seeing it? Quite a few. How many of you cried during America's monologue? Good. We like that. Okay, so now I'm very excited to introduce some of the amazing talent behind this film. Get ready. First up, Margot Robbie. And a little bit of a surprise here, Ryan Gosling. Ferrera. McKinnon. Rhea Perlman. And Ariana Greenblatt. Welcome.
How's everyone feeling?
We love it.
How many of you haven't seen it until tonight? Oh my gosh, that's amazing! Well, thank you, and thank you for those who saw it again. Thank you.
A lot of them put up their hands when I asked how many of them cried at America's monologue.
I always cry at the end moment with Barbie and Ruth. That's the ugly crying moment for me.
There's a lot of ugly crying moments. So Margot, I would like to start with you, and also congratulations on all the nominations for all of you. Margot, you were the person that bought the rights to Barbie, and I'm just so curious, what was the meeting where you, with your production company Lucky Chap, sat down and said, this is the thing that we should do?
It was about 5.5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago now, and we sat down with Inon, the real-life head of Mattel, who is nothing like Will Ferrell, actually. He actually is a lot like the Terminator. And he just reminds me of the Terminator so much, and he's just like, he just crushes everything. It's amazing. So he was very on board with kind of trusting us to make the movie, you know, kind of in a wonderful way. He was like, this is your domain, so you tell us. I'm like, I think it should be Greta Gerwig. I think it needs to be like this. I think it has to be kind of like not avoiding some of the complicated things about Bart. You know, we're pretty honest in that first initial meeting about what our approach would be. But more than anything, we kind of wanted to reassure him too that, you know, there's a 60+ year legacy of this brand, and we would be honoring that. And, you know, it's like, it was all going to be done with love, and executed at the highest level with the best people that this industry has. You know, we have the most incredible HODs on this film. Rodrigo Prieto, our cinematographer, and Sarah Groom. I mean, every single person who worked on this film, and of course our cast, is just the very top. So yes, in that initial meeting, I didn't know exactly what this was going to be, because that's the genius of Greta and Noah. I just knew what the intention was and what I thought the potential of it could be.
I'm really curious, was there ever a meeting with Mattel where you had to kind of fess up to what you were really going to do? And what did they say about it?
We had so many meetings. If you could just be a fly on the wall for some of the meetings we had, it was... Because of course this script was bonkers, and if you think about how like kind of weird it is what you just saw, like imagine that on the page and everyone didn't know what it was going to be to begin with. So yeah, there were a lot of meetings where we had to really get them comfortable with being very, very uncomfortable, and they were amazing about it.
And what kind of feedback did they give you after seeing it? Were they delighted? They had to be, surely. I mean, it's the highest grossing movie globally last year, so...
It's a process, obviously, in the edit process, and it transforms and evolves all the time. But it seems, sitting on this side of the movie, that it's obvious that this was going to work out, but even up until a week before this released, everyone was kind of white knuckling it. Everyone, like, no one, you just don't know if it's going to work or not. You don't know if it's going to hit or not. You don't know how people are going to respond. And thank God it did. And most of you believes that it's going to, but there's a big part of you that is worried that it won't. And, the money people especially are probably worried about that far more than even I am. So, no, I mean, everyone was excited when they saw it, but also terrified. And it wasn't until it was literally out in the world and doing what it ended up doing that everyone suddenly was like, well, of course a Barbie movie worked out. It's like, yeah, it did. No, we didn't know that at the time, though.
I did hear that you hid in a theatre bathroom to listen to what people were saying about the film.
Yeah, that could have gone very badly too. It didn't, but it was fascinating, and I would go around to theatres on weekends and just watch people coming out and kind of like listen to what they were saying and see who, it was an amazing experience. And I had this brilliant experience. I was in a pub in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, and I listened for about 30 minutes to a group of guys on a bachelor party discussing the Barbie movie, not knowing that I was sitting 2 feet away from them. And it was just truly fascinating. And there was, people who at the table who refused to see the Barbie movie. There were people who, one guy was like, dude, it's a cultural moment. Don't you want to be a part of culture? And the other guy was like, I'll never see it. By the end, he did want to see it. I mean, it was a whole thing. And really, people's reactions to the movie has been the biggest reward of this entire experience, whether it's having a moment like that, or whether it's listening in the bathrooms, or whether it's seeing what people are writing online, or even just seeing like how much pink I can see in this room right now. It's just, those moments are what makes it, it's what makes it so. I've never been a part of something like this, and I probably not like this, I've done comic book stuff, and and that gets a big reaction, but this felt very different. It still feels very different, and I can't think of a time when a movie's kind of had this effect on culture, and it's amazing to be kind of in the eye of the storm.
I hope you went up to those guys in Scotland and said hi.
I wasn't going to, and then I did. At the last minute, as I was walking out, I went to their table and I was like, thank you for seeing the Barbie movie. It was very funny. They lost it. It took a full minute for them to realize, and I was practically out the door, and then they were like, oh! It was very funny.
So, Ryan, I was watching an interview that you gave previously where you said, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, forgive me. You said something about having read the script and realized this was going to be really hard. And you said something like, how do you play a 70-year-old crotchless doll? Is that correct? So I am curious, how did you set about, what are you basing this on? Like, what do you think, what's going through your head when you're like, how am I figuring out Ken? And what were the conversations you had with Greta and Noah about that?
Well, even though it's true, there are no books you can read, no biographies on Ken, no documentaries, there's really nothing. We did have this brilliant script that was just so layered, so deeply thought out. It was just so unexpectedly philosophical. It was like, and I think Greta does she have a degree in philosophy? She should. But it's almost like, I don't know, is it like Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am? But it's like she was going, okay, she took it one step further and she was like, I can, therefore I beach. But there was this layer to the humor where it was like she deeply understood how she could use comedy to facilitate a more serious conversation. And so she started it, there was no one ever had the thought, I wonder what Ken thinks. And if anyone did, they let it go very quickly because it seemed like a waste of time. But she just said, no, I'm going to dig really, really deep into this. And, she found interesting and beautiful thing. So it was that was there, that work had been done. And then it just sort of became like sort of trying to, we started a kind of, because she was in London, a kind of a text exchange really that was sort of just photos, and it ended up looking like what I imagine Ken's Instagram would look like if he had one. It was just all these kind of weird inspo. It's sort of like it's almost like Battleship, where you're kind of trying to guess like where the other person is, and I would send like a picture of like the Barbarian Brothers from Maxim, like a muscle fitness magazine from the 90s that I remembered as a kid. It should be like, okay, but maybe more like this, and then she would send like a picture of like that guy from the Warriors, you know? And then I'd be like, all right, well, what about this? And I'd send the Ultimate Warrior from the WWF, and she'd be like, yeah, but maybe it's a bit more like this, and then she'd send that guy from Xanadu. And it's the same guy, by the way, and I was like, okay, I'm getting a connection. There's a theme here, and it has to do with that actor. He's the Rosetta Stone. But anyway, it ended up, and then she would send a horse lamp or a bunch of spoon sculptures, and she'd be like this, and I just felt so honored that she trusted me to understand what like a wall of spoons might mean for this character.
What did it mean?
Just, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. Sorry. It's pretty obvious. Anyway, it was a very unique process, and we got to this, you know, we got there.
I will say though that the portrayal of Ken it's so nuanced, it's hilarious, but also so sad, because it's not, of course, only women that live within these expectations and stereotypes, and his self-esteem is so paper thin because of that. And I feel like this is why the global appeal. It's not just for women, it's for everybody. Because I feel like so little is said to sympathize with that exact scenario of stereotypical stuff.
Yeah, when we were filming the I'm Just Ken musical number, I remember going behind a crew guy, he didn't know I was there, and he was like, I'm just Dave. And I was like, this is something going on here. And even Mark Ronson sent me recently, like his friends sent him, like her son is watching that song on a loop now because it's making him feel better about getting dumped. Because he's like, well, if Ken gets dumped, you know, and it makes me realize that like, it's not me, it's like, she's just on a different journey. Cool.
America, of course. You and I have talked about this before, this amazing monologue. Every time I watch it, it gets me, and I've seen it many times. I know that Margot has told me that she cried every time you did it on set. I believe everyone was crying at one time or another. How did you and Greta discuss that ahead of time, and how did you build on it? And tell me how it felt actually shooting it. I think it was towards the end of the shoot, right?
Yeah, we shot it really towards the end, like months after we had begun shooting. It was, you know, we never really talked about the monologue separate from Gloria's entire journey, really. And similarly, there was a lot of texting going back and forth, and sometimes it was like poetry, or it was an article, or it was an episode of something, or an op-ed about womanhood. And we just kind of for months went back and forth sharing, you know, where we saw the essence of Gloria's journey, which of course is very much encapsulated in that monologue, just bubbling up in the culture, you know. And so by the time we got around to shooting it at the end of the shoot, I mean, I felt so ripe and ready, and you know, the truth is like I just spent 40 years being a woman in the world. Like, that's mostly how I prepared for that monologue. And Greta and I, we had a lot in common in terms of like both being moms and having careers and being artists. And so we it felt like sleepover bonding on a really fundamental level. And it was just, I think that the words were just true. And when I read the words on the page, it just hit me as truth. And I felt like my job was just not to get in the way of what was true, and I think that's what resonates, not just with women, with people of all genders who feel like seen and reflected in the, like you said, Ken and all kinds of people are also damaged by the same systems, right? And Greta had said that she looked around and the guys on the crew were sort of wiping away tears, and they had their own either version of their own or like a relationship or a witnessing of someone they loved having that experience, So I just feel like it was such a gift that Greta and Noah, but I suspect probably really Greta, put on the page. We connected to it as much as we could personally, but at the end of the day, it was just about like letting the simple truth come through.
Were you a Barbie owning girl as a kid?
No, I was not at all. I mean, we like couldn't afford Barbies growing up. My cousin had Barbies that I kind of played with at her house, but I had never in my wildest dreams desired to be a part of a Barbie movie, And when the script came my way, what was so compelling was Margot's involvement and Greta's involvement, and saying, okay, here are two incredibly talented, intelligent, deep artistic women. Why are they doing this, and what are they going to do with it? And once you read that script, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I felt giddy with excitement, just as a woman in the world, that this was the Barbie movie no one asked for, but that we were going to get, And I had no investment in Barbie whatsoever. And by the end of reading the script, I was in. I said to Mark Ronson very boldly when he came to Barbie dance rehearsal, I said to him, I think there's going to be a before Barbie and an after Barbie, like in this industry, in terms of the permission that people feel in storytelling and what's possible. And that's how I felt when I first read the script. Like, my God, what a masterpiece, what a gift that Greta and Noah gave us.
It's definitely. You're right. I think it's definitely set a precedent and will change the kinds of films that will get financed going forward, and that's an amazing thing. Thanks to you, Margot. I have to say, I think I would have absolutely loved to have had a shame Barbie or a cellulite Barbie as a kid, and I'm hoping that becomes a thing. But like Kate's character, Weird Barbie, all my Barbies had no hair and had their legs at weird, unnatural angles. So tell us about coming to the role of Weird Barbie. Did you immediately go, this is going to be amazing? What was the process?
I feel nervous. This is my first SAG screening, and being in a room full of peers, why don't you tell me? What was the question? No. I heard my agent called and was like, there's a role in the Barbie movie. And I was like, pour moi? And he was like, it's called Weird Barbie. And I was like, I read it and I was like, I don't have to change a line. Usually I feel compelled to and want to, put my own like spin on the dialogue and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is what I would write, only it's 10,000 times better. And I don't have to, I'll just say exactly what this is. Okay. So that was amazing. And then my biggest thing became like, what are the clothes? Because we know the hair of these Barbies, that's easy, but they're always naked. The clothes have been flushed down the toilet and burned and buried with the dog, and what will I wear? And that was the funnest part of creating the character, as it were, working with the amazing costume designer and working on the hair and the makeup was like such a fun journey. Yeah. So that.
You know what I love is that the dog that poops was a real thing. And it was discontinued because the magnets didn't work on the poop. And it was like a danger to children. But I absolutely love that that's a real thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of freaky, weird stuff and real stuff. And we told the truth. All we did was have to tell the truth. And I just was so, it's so amazing to be part of something like this with, it's crazy. But, like, I specifically loved Weird Barbie because I feel like girls that age who are doing that to their dolls are just trying to be themselves and express what they feel inside. And how they don't feel like this, they feel like that. And I wanted to speak to them.
Clear up a little thing that wasn't your actual leg at that angle.
I can't clear that up for you. That will remain a mystery. No, it went my leg. I can't do that.
I heard that there were holes in the scenery in which to put your actual leg at the same time.
Yes.
Which
So
is
the
ingenious.
stance was not, it was like that. Less impressive.
Rhea, I adore your character in this movie. It's amazing.
I have to say, I think she's an amazing woman, Ruth Handler, who I play. Some girls came up to me the other day on the street. You're Barbie's mother. Oh my God. How does it feel to be Barbie's mother? It feels really good. Yeah. And she, the words that Greta wrote, Greta and Noah, were just, there was no way to screw them up. They were just brilliant. And they had so much emotion just in it. It felt like I didn't have to do anything, but just be there. Just be, most of my work, almost all of my work was with Margot, and it was just a complete joy to be with her, who does not have a false note either. She is just, she's just right there, always. And I feel like that's true of all your work, because I'm a huge fan. I told you. I really am. And but I did some research on this woman, Ruth, who I was going to play, and she was quite an interesting person, because aside from creating the Barbie, because that's the story has been told, her daughter, whose name is Barbara, she named it after her daughter, Barbara. By the way, her son was named Kenneth. So she got Ken. So I guess she thought a lot about him. But she was the co-owner of Mattel, but apparently, according to all reports, she was the brains behind the operation. And I think that, women can do it ethic is so completely in this movie. It's just so empowering in every way. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it just is. And aside from Mattel and all that, she, I'd say at one point in the movie, I had a mastectomy, and she had a double mastectomy, and when she was healed, she realized there's nothing you could do at that time in our culture, in our world, to make your breasts look like they were real. They were just flat. And so she created the first breast prosthesis. And it's still sold today. It's a bra. It's a bra for people who've had their breasts removed. And she made the first one. And, and she went on, she was already, she liked being in the spotlight, I guess, and she thought it was a very important message to tell people about. And I saw somewhere that she was on some show and she opened her shirt and, you see, how does it look? It was like she's showing that bra that she made. And she was just an amazing person. And what else to say? I didn't have Barbies, but my daughters had Barbies, and every one of their Barbies was a weird Barbie. Eventually, I mean, they loved playing with them like they were gorgeous, but they also loved taking their heads off, filling them with water, and throwing them around in the bathtub, and pulling their hair, and then fix their hair, Mom. Well, make it better. I said, okay, well, then don't pull it out every time. I'll do my best. Yeah. But Barbies were huge in our house. We had Barbie shows where they would everybody has to sit there, and anybody who was at the house had to sit around while my two girls came out and did some really stupid show, with their Barbies. But it was just so wonderful. And I just want to say one thing about, the movie being for everyone, not just women and girls, is that the other day I was hiking in the park, and I live around the corner from a canyon, and this man was sitting on the trunk of his car, which was open, putting on his shoes, like he had just done a hike, and he waved to me, and he said, "I really loved you in Barbie. I know that movie's not for me, but I just have to say it wasn't made for me." But I said, "Of course it was made for you. It was made for everybody. It was made for everyone." And it was like there are men who just love the movie, and it's hard for them to say it, but man, I've seen more men cry over that movie than women, I think. Yeah. Anyways, I'm just thrilled that I'm a part of it.
I have to add, when we did our preview screenings, we do recruited screenings, and then you've got 400 pieces of paper of responses from people, saying what they liked and didn't like about the movie, and it's divided into demographics. Young teenage boys loved Ruth. That was like, it was all, I was always like, they're gonna love the beach battle, they're gonna love the fart jokes, before we took out that fart joke, but whatever. I was like, I thought I knew the things and they all, like, not obviously all, but like the majority, and very specifically that demographic, teenage young boys loved Ruth. It was like, I love the scene with Ruth, I love when Ruth did this. Yeah, it was really interesting. So yeah, the movie is great.
absolutely love your opening scene where you just shred Margot and reduce her to tears. But your character is this really important counterpoint to, you know, all the kind of, oh, Barbie's fantastic, you know, and you provide this kind of, wait, why are we being told we can do anything but only if we look like this? So tell us about how it felt to deliver those lines to Margot, which were pretty harsh, and just putting that scene together and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, Mom, can you open my water? I did try and I can't. I'm really sweaty, so thanks so much. Sorry, I was waiting this whole time. Thank you. Okay, so obviously you can't yell at Margot. You can't. And staring at her, and as she would like truly cry, and I just have to like double down and just really ruin her. It hurt, but it, you know, it's necessary to give that different point of view. And I know many people that like when you hear Barbie, like what is this gonna do? But yeah, I mean, growing up, I had the big dream house, and I just put Monster High dolls in there because I was that kid. I had Monster High dolls. But yeah, I mean, you know, especially me, who obviously doesn't look like stereotypical Barbie. I don't have blonde hair and blue eyes and whatever. Growing up, it's like, obviously now they have, thankfully, so many different types of dolls for kids to play with, but there wasn't many, and obviously, you know, you want to be represented growing up, especially in toys that everyone has and your friends have in your house. So having that different point of view, I feel like was good and refreshing. And obviously at the end, Sasha wanted to stick up for Barbie, and she wanted Barbie to have the ending she deserved because it wasn't her fault at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, Sasha's fun. She's misunderstood, you guys, okay? She's not a bully. She's just very strongly opinionated, and she communicates that in a very specific way. Yeah, but you know, yelling at her wasn't easy. But again, it was just I had to. It had to be done.
I love it when she's like, what is this song you got?
That song actually was stuck in my head forever. Also, remember the scene where America and Margot had to sing that song together, and I was in the back just trying not to die laughing. I was just trying to be like the angsty teen, like, oh, they're so embarrassing, but I just wanted to either join them or just cry laughing in the back of the car. And obviously, Margot, you're too hard on yourself with your voice. You sound great, but you were so nervous. And I just remember you being like, you don't have to hear me sing this, do you? And that whole thing was great. And America, you have pipes. I don't want to hear it. Like, you can sing, okay? America, you can sing. Yeah.
I just remember about that scene that, like, we thought we were just shooting, like, a snippet of the song, and then Greta came over and she's like, the whole thing. We're like, we don't know the words.
It's complicated. I mean, it's not straightforward and it's just repeating like a bridge or whatever. It's like there's a lot of
very philosophical,
very wordy.
Yeah, I remember they printed it out. They printed the lyrics on like 3 pages, and you were just like trying to memorize the whole song in this little amount of time. But
I think also Ryan came to my rescue because he could also sense how mortified I was to be singing in front of everyone, and he joined in the car and like set up, and you sang extra loud, and you didn't need to do that, and I'll always appreciate it. You need to do that.
So, this is the only billion-dollar movie solely directed by a woman. It actually grossed 1.4 billion last year, globally, the biggest film of the year. But there was a lot, obviously, of online discourse around the Oscar nominations. I want to say there is so much to celebrate. It's your first producing nomination. You got Best Picture, America, Ryan, amazing. There's so much to celebrate. The SAG Ensemble nomination, your intense because there was so much love for this movie, and a lot of people had a lot of feelings about that. Was there anything that you wanted to speak to about that scenario, how it felt? Because it was quite a kind of tense time.
I mean, like you said, we're beyond ecstatic that we got 8 Academy Award nominations, and that's so wild. And already we set out to do something that would shift culture, affect culture, or just make some sort of impact, and it's already done that and some, like way more than we ever dreamed it would. And that is truly the biggest reward that could come out of all of this. And I'm so obviously ecstatic for everyone getting the nods that they've had is just incredible. And the Best Picture, not obviously, I think Greta should be nominated as a director, because what she did is it's like a once in a career, once in a lifetime thing. What she pulled off, it really is. But it's been an incredible year, and like for all the films, and there's no way to feel sad when you know you're this blessed.
I'm really glad she got the screenplay nomination with Noah too. It's just so well deserved.
It's also, I don't know, like all things to do with Barbie, it's not really about, I don't know, I just suspect it's bigger than us. It's bigger than this movie. It's bigger than our industry. I don't know, when people feel that way, I think they're feeling it for themselves and for the world that they're in, as opposed to this specific thing.
Well, looking around at all the people dressed in pink, it's definitely a cultural movement more than anything, and that's just everything that you could have wished for and more, I imagine. Can any of you, just to close out, offer some of the best fan reaction or even family reactions that you've had? Something that really moved you?
I remember when the movie first came out, I snuck into a theater with my brother just to kind of see, similar to you in the bathroom, listening to what people have to say. I just wanted to see everyone's live reaction. So I just found like an empty seat, and there was this girl in front of me, and she was just watching the movie, and I believe it was the part it was either your monologue or when I was screaming at something. It was like a big part of the movie, and I was just watching her watch the movie, and I could just tell she was so touched by it. And she was like in her own little land, and she was dressed in pink, and she had like the prettiest blonde hair, and I was like, okay, I've been staring at this random girl for a little bit, I should probably go. So I just remember like I tapped on her shoulder, I said, you look so beautiful, and she was like, so confused, like where did I just like spawn from, and how long have I been there, and that whole thing. But it was just wonderful to watch her and have it soak in for the first time for her, and it was just a really nice moment. She was so confused, but those little moments is what I feel like means so much to me and everyone who's part of this film. It's just how it affected the people individually. And I also remember all of my guy friends from high school. I didn't know how the hell they were going to respond to this movie, but they loved it, and they came and watched it with me, and they wore pink, and they asked their sister for their pink whatever, and they were fully in it, and I was like, mad respect for you, damn. But they loved it, and then drove home listening to Ice Spice's song, and
After that, I remember opening weekend, a friend of mine texted me, and he's like, took his 3-year-old daughter and 5-year-old son, which is the exact ages of my kids actually, to see Barbie. And he said that they were walking out, and neither of them said anything the whole walk to the car. And then they got in the car, and his 3.5 daughter goes, Daddy, I'm the boss now. Meanwhile, my 5-year-old son took 2 weeks to be like, did the construction workers ever finish the wall? Like 2 weeks to come up with it. That's what you've been thinking about for 2 weeks? So there's a difference. I don't know. Not to generalize. But
I point on when Barbie, in the early days of the movie having opened, I was in New York doing something, and I got a call, and the number was my daughter Lucy's number, and so I picked it up high, and all I heard was two voices, hers and a man's voice. We saw, could not get the words out that they had just gone to see Barbie, and could not stop crying. My daughter and Danny, my husband. It was, and he went on and on and on about how this movie should win best movie, best every single one of, and every category.
I'm so sad to say that's all we've got time for, and I just want to thank all of you for being here. Congratulations on all of your nominations, so well deserved.
Give it up for Barbie.